Here are some of the predictions for Alabama. The FBI has them at 11.3 and 1.5. Most likely going to the SEC championship, so you could say that loss could be coming in the regular season or possibly in the SEC championship. Athlon has this team going 12-0, going undefeated, and the over-under is at 10.5, which at first seems low. I mean, this team, I think, is clearly preseason on paper the best team in the country, so that seems like a low number. You'd say this team is at least going to go 11-1, but when you really break down their schedule, this is the toughest schedule that Alabama has had in a long time, and it's not really because the schedule has changed that much. It's just because the teams that they play are getting better. Tennessee has been down for so long. Tennessee is going to be pretty good this year, so things like that I think make the schedule a challenge. But it still would be hard to imagine this team going 10-2. When you look at this Alabama team, and I know I've said a lot about them already this offseason, they're absolutely loaded. There really is no weakness. The offensive line would be the one area of concern. And yes, they had some struggles last season, but I trust Nick Saban to get that fixed. I'm not really too concerned if I'm an Alabama fan here. The defense, really all three levels there, they're loaded. They've got a good group of young receivers, some transfers that are going to help them out in a big way. Jahmyr Gibbs coming in at running back could be a Heisman contender. And you got the Heisman winner from last year, Bryce Young. So this team is absolutely loaded. No reason to expect them not to be right there in the playoff race at the end of the season. Here is the schedule for Alabama. And again, it's a more difficult schedule because of the teams that they play being better, and also just the fact that they have some of their tougher games on the road. Texas in the non-conference is a true road game, something Alabama has not really had to deal with in the non-conference. Arkansas is going to be good. They play them on the road. Tennessee is going to be good. They play them on the road. LSU could be pretty good. They play them on the road. And Ole Miss, a team that might give them the most trouble, they play them on the road as well. So I think the schedule is tougher just because of the way it lays out and because of the fact that these teams Arkansas has been terrible in recent years. They finally turned it around. Now they're a preseason top 15 team. Tennessee, same thing. So that's why the schedule is tougher. Not that they've gone out and scheduled tougher teams or anything. It's just that the teams that they play will be better. Utah State's a good team out of the Mountain West. This is not a game that Alabama, I think, has any chance of losing, but it's one of those games that you might look at the score at halftime and think, what is going on here? Why is Alabama in a close game? I don't expect that to last too long, though. I think they'll pull away in this one, but it could be close for a while just because Utah State's a pretty good football team, and you have to wonder, with Texas on the road the next week, could they be looking ahead a little bit? You wouldn't expect that to be the case with it being the first game of the season, but you never know. So I think this game is a game that maybe is a little closer than the experts expect it to be, but it's not a game that will be really all that close. Alabama will win, and I think they'll start off 1-0. Texas is an interesting game here in week 2. The speed of that Texas offense, they're going to want to go fast. They're playing this game at noon Eastern time on September the 10th. It's going to be hot, more than likely. That could bode well for Texas, and I think their offense could start to wear down this Alabama defense. The problem, though, is that Alabama's offense is going to do the same thing to the Texas defense, and I trust the Alabama defense to hold up a little bit more. I think it's a shootout for a while, but Alabama will pull away. They'll win it by at least a couple of touchdowns, and I think they start off 2-0 and then 3-0 after a win over ULM. Vanderbilt comes up after that on September the 24th. This schedule could definitely be tougher for Alabama. What if they had to play Tennessee and Georgia instead of Vanderbilt? So yeah, it could be worse. It's not the most challenging schedule in the country. It's just, again, it's getting tougher than it has been in recent years. But Vanderbilt's not going to be a tough game. They'll win easily. I think they start off 4-0, and would be surprised if Texas is the only game that you could see them stumbling in, but I don't see that happening. Arkansas next on October the 1st on the road. The game was pretty close last year. It was, and Arkansas is a team that will be good again this year. It's a game that could be close once again, but I trust Alabama a little bit more. I trust their playmakers on both sides of the ball. I think they'll make enough plays to survive this one on the road. Yes, it'll be a scare. It'll be a close game, but but I think they'll win it, and I think they'll start off 5-0. Texas A&M is next in Tuscaloosa. All right, there are so many things in this game going for Alabama. First of all the drama with Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher, and Jimbo saying all that he said, and the fact that Alabama lost to them last year, plus all the hype that Texas A&M is getting in the preseason. I think that is all the fuel for an absolute beatdown. I think Alabama will embarrass Texas A&M. I don't think this game will be close at all. I think they, from start to finish, dominate. Kind of like maybe the Ole Miss game last year. We thought that was going to be a challenge. Alabama wound up going out there, and which part of that, of course, was because Lane Kiffin was going for it every fourth down. But I think it'll be a similar type score, similar type game. Not really close at all. Bama by a lot in a revenge game. And then you have the rivalry with Tennessee. So after an emotional game, maybe you get your confidence built up, and then you have to go on the road to face Tennessee against an offense that could humble you pretty quick. I think Tennessee will start fast. I think they'll be ready. And because of that, I think, again, they will jump out to a lead. I think Tennessee is going to give Alabama all that they want in this one. But I think the defense will make some plays. They'll force a turnover or two. Bryce Young will be clutch down the stretch. I think it'll be a very close game. But I do think that Alabama will beat Tennessee and improve to 7-0. But that's, again, coming off of an emotional game against Texas A&M, and then you go into a rivalry game on the road. That is going to be a challenge. That's going to be a tricky game, in my opinion. Mississippi State coming up next. And you could say that this game also could be a challenge because it's right after Texas A&M and Tennessee. But the good news is the fact that it's at home and they get a bye week the next week. So you don't have to worry about looking ahead. I think they give it their all. It's a fairly close game, not a blowout, but I think Alabama at home, the better team, they'll find a way to get it done and win by a couple of scores. Then they get the bye week before playing LSU. LSU is an interesting team, of course. We don't really know what to expect from them. I think they'll be a good team. I think they're at least a 7-5, 8-4 type team. Maybe better than that. If Jaden Daniels can go in there and be a star for them at quarterback, LSU becomes a very dangerous team. I don't know if that's going to happen, and I really can't predict it, but I think playing in Death Valley is tough no matter who the quarterback is, and I do expect this game to be close. But Alabama, again, Bryce Young, he's proven in the clutch he can do it. I think he does it again here in what I think will be a close game, and I think Ole Miss will be close as well. This one will be on the road. Lane Kiffin, I know they lost a lot, but Lane Kiffin got some big-time players in the transfer portal. This offense will be rolling. It's a shootout. I think it's not like last year's game. It's more like the game 2 years ago. A lot of back and forth. But Alabama's defense, I mean, they're going to make some big plays. They're going to, come up with a big sack on third down or a turnover, and that's the difference. I think Alabama's defense makes enough plays to where they win, but it is a close game. Again, I think you're going to see a lot of close games, but Alabama will just find a way to win a lot of them, and I think that's the case here for Ole Miss. Again, LSU I think will be close. Tennessee will be close. Arkansas will be close. You've got some scares there. All four of those games on the road. Arkansas, Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss. Wouldn't be surprised if Alabama stumbled in one of those games. Don't really see them stumbling in the Iron Bowl. Auburn, unless they can get better quarterback play, they're really not going to have a chance in this game. If they do make a big improvement there, if Zach Calzada comes in and he's playing great, it's a rivalry, it's the Iron Bowl. There's enough there to make this game compelling. But in Tuscaloosa, I think Alabama will win pretty easily. And I think they win the Iron Bowl by much easier than they did last year. And I think they'll finish it off 12-0. So again, when you look at this schedule, you can see a lot of opportunities for losses for Alabama. And some people may be picking them to lose a game. But when you really look at each individual game, I just don't see a team beating Alabama in the regular season. So I'm going to say that they go 12-0 in 2022.